Hi everybody, welcome to the show. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Raising A to Z, a homeschool channel all about homeschooling, obviously. And my name is Amanda, and today I'm answering a question I've gotten asked so many times. People have asked, what are some of my favorite homeschool books for parents? As a homeschooler, you understand the benefits of reading. I think reading is so important for your kids, but I think it's also a great way for you to understand what you're doing and to get new ideas, some inspiration, figure out different approaches if something isn't working. And I think it's just a great way to also reaffirm that homeschooling is not as weird and as crazy as you think it is. I've gotten a lot of questions about what are some of my favorite books for parents. And so I'm gonna share a couple books that I have read this past year and a couple books that are also on my wish list for next year. So let's get into some of my favorite homeschool books for parents. I'm going to start with one of the most popular books out there right now. This is The Brave Learner. It is by Julie Bogart. She is the author and founder of the Brave Writer program. So that is a popular writing program for homeschoolers. And she is a veteran homeschooler. And this book has been probably one of the top homeschool books out there recently. It is a fantastic book. I actually did a book review all on just this book, and I will put the link for that right over here. But this is a great book, I think, for any homeschooler, whether you've been homeschooling for a while, whether you are brand new to homeschooling. I love it because I find it's not super approach specific. So you can find books out there that are all about unschooling or Charlotte Mason style or classical homeschooling. What I love about the Brave Learner book is that it is not specific to one style. She jumps around from using curriculum to more of an unschooling, child-led approach, and she shows different ideas and options that you can do to integrate things into your homeschooling. I also love it because I find it's a very practical guide. So it does have a lot of great ideas of things you can do in your homeschooling that are really inexpensive. The other reason that I love this book is because it's full of like really practical things to do. It's not just super theoretical or like fluffy. There's a lot of like things that you can actually do. In fact, if you look through my copy here, you will see I have like post-it notes all throughout my book, because these are all ideas of things that I would love to incorporate at some point, or ideas or activities or different ways of introducing ideas. Those are all in this book, and I just think that's a great thing about this book. It's not just, like I said, it's not just theoretical. It has a lot of anecdotes of what has worked in her family, but it also has a lot of really practical ideas about making homeschooling fun and making homeschooling kind of magical in a way. And so if you're going to buy a book, I highly recommend this as a great book. Brave Learner by Julie Bogart. The next book I'm going to recommend is Dumbing Us Down. This is John Taylor Gatto. And this book has been super helpful for Stefan and I, because this book is not so much a homeschooling book, but it's talking about what is the role of school in general and what is going on with schools and why schools are not exactly set up to foster the most intelligent, the most creative, the most innovative thinkers. That's not what they're created to do. So as two teachers, myself and my husband, this has been really good for us because we have grown up in the school system. We've also grown up as teachers in the school system, and so we really, especially when we started homeschooling, struggled with how do we let go of school and homeschool, because teaching and being a school teacher was so ingrained in us. And so this has been such a fantastic book for us, talking about kind of like the politics of school and what is the psychology behind school and why that might not actually be the best thing when it comes to educating children to be intelligent, creative, free thinkers. So while he is not a homeschooler and the book is not specifically about homeschooling, John Taylor Gatto's book is very common and very popular in homeschooling circles, because he does advocate that homeschooling can be a fantastic option for creating great, well-rounded children, and that become great, well-rounded adults, as well as very free thinkers, and can actually work in a different form of society. So I love this one again. Fantastic book. Like I said, if you're struggling with the ideas of like, is schooling mandatory and you can't seem to get the idea of school out of your head, this is definitely a book I would recommend. Another book I'm going to recommend, sorry, it's going to be a little shameless, this one, How to Start Homeschooling When You Have No Idea Where to Start. This is our book. So Stefan, my husband, and I wrote this book because when we were starting to homeschool, we discovered how incredibly overwhelming it is. From approaches to curriculum to ideas to how to set up your schedule to make it legal. Like there's so many questions and things of what needs to happen and what you need to think about that we were just overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information out there and the fact that we had to like go to 20 different places to find the answer to one question. So we wrote this, How to Start Homeschooling When You Have No Idea Where to Start, as a book to help people figure out how to start homeschooling. Like if you had to start tomorrow, what do you really need to do? And so that's what this book is all about. This was a little passion project for us that we wanted to help people who were starting to homeschool. And that is so important right now, where we see a lot of people who are moving away from the schooling system thanks to COVID and are trying homeschooling for the first time. So if you are new to homeschooling, I highly recommend this. I know it sounds a little self-serving, but it's true. I think we've had a lot of people who said this book has been so helpful for them because it just made figuring out how to start homeschooling so much easier. In this book, we talk about so many things. Are you considering homeschooling? What do you need to do to make it legal? We talk about actually setting up your homeschooling and building your homeschool. So we talk about schedules and plans and curriculum and figuring out your space for homeschooling. We talk about relationships and like how homeschooling can affect relationships in your life, with your relationship with your kids, with your spouse, with other people, and how to kind of tackle those issues a little bit. We also talk about report cards and learning styles and all kinds of things. Dealing with anti-homeschoolers, like that's a huge section in this book. So if you are new to homeschooling, if you're seriously considering homeschooling, if you've started homeschooling and you're completely overwhelmed and you just can't figure out what to do, this is probably your best bet on how to start homeschooling right now. So again, the next two books that I'm going to talk about are kind of similar. So the first one, the Read Aloud family. She is the podcaster and homeschool mom behind the Read Aloud Revival. So if you're into podcasts, you might want to check that out. And I think this would be a great book for a lot of people. I will say that as a teacher, I found it a little dull, only because this felt a lot like going back to teacher's college. So a lot of what was in here, I already had learned several years ago back when I was like actually in school myself. But if you have never gone to teacher's college, you would probably find this super interesting because I did back then. The Read Aloud family is all about the benefits of reading with your kids and to your kids. And so if you're looking for a book that talks about like the science and the psychology behind reading, if you're looking for a book that explains the benefits of reading to your kids, this is the book that you would want to go with. I think this is a fantastic book for like background information. It was good, but as like in terms of learning something new, it wasn't really new information. But again, went to teacher's college, and this felt like my literacy program. Like this literally felt like I was in my teacher's college literacy program. So if you are not a teacher, this would probably be a great book when you're talking about the benefits of reading with your kids. The last part of this book is all about reading to your kids, and it's all about offering suggestions for age-appropriate books and titles and kind of like her family favorites, books that she thinks are great given a variety of what she thinks are important. And she even goes like why she recommends certain books. And so it's a great section if you're looking for figuring out like what kind of novels you want to read, what kind of books you want to read to your kids, if there's something out there, if you're kind of stuck. The back section is great. I will say she does have a Christian approach, so there are books in here that you will not find based on certain ages, but if that doesn't bother you, that is fantastic. So she doesn't have a lot of like books that have like magic. They're definitely not dark books. So if that's something important to you, that's definitely in the back here. But even if it's not, there's definitely some great titles in the back of her book here. So again, another book that I recommend, and you can also check out our podcast. This book, How to Raise a Reader, is very similar kind of in concept to this one, only I found this one a much easier read. So How to Raise a Reader is by Pamela Paul and Maria Russo. They are the New York Times book review editors for the kids section. So this book is divided by age group, and it's talking about like what to do to help raise kids that love to read. So for each age, it offers different tips and tricks to make the most out of your reading time. So I find this book is super practical. While this book was really like theoretical and there's lots of like the science and psychology behind it, this is like what can you do specifically when you sit down to read with your kids to make it more engaging for them, to make it something that they want to do, and to make it something that they want to be involved in. I like that this book is very, like I said, it's very reader friendly. It's almost like reading a picture book as an adult. Like, it's such a great read. It's a very quick read too, which like I think I burned through the first several up until teen reader in like maybe an hour and a half. Like, it's a really quick read, but it's got a lot of really great information in it. It also, for each age section, it also, again, like the other book, has a selection of book titles. And I find this selection is phenomenal. Like, a lot of the books in the other book I've never really heard of or very limited. These books just seem to be like the top books that you can get out there for your kids. What I also like, so it goes by age, it goes all the way up to teens. And then at the back, once you get past reading to your teenager, it actually goes into like another list of books. So it goes into books that are sorted by categories. So you have books that make us laugh, books that make us cry, books that teach us about character, books that that are heartwarmers, books about family, books about friendships, books about kindness. It goes through like a whole bunch of different topics, and it divides them by age group again. So picture books through small readers into like chapter books. So I really love that. I also loved that something that I loved about this was it also talks about audiobooks, which I think is such a new thing, and I think it's just fantastic that they also selected a couple great audiobooks to read as well. Not religious, so there's tons of selections in here if you are looking for books that have no magical content or maybe not dark. You might want to check some of the books that are in here because they do talk about Harry Potter, and I know some people are a little iffy on that depending on your religious persuasion. But all in all, like, these books that they're suggesting are the New York Times bestsellers for kids books. It is a fantastic book. I actually borrowed this from the library, and it is actually late right now. I need to return it. But I went through this book and made a list of probably 75 or 80 books from now until middle school by their age range. And that's what I'm using for like Christmas lists right now. That's what I'm using to help me find new ideas and new books for my kids. So this book has been super phenomenal for me. Another book that I read, I can't show you the picture because I read it on my phone, but I read Balanced and Barefoot this summer. It is, again, not a homeschool book, but it's a great book for a lot of people who are trying to incorporate more natural nature play into their lives. It's a book by Angela Hansken. And I thought it was a really good book because it's about the importance of exploring nature on a child's physical and mental well-being. It's a really great book for a couple different groups. Number one, if you are a family who's trying to incorporate more outdoor exploration time and more time outdoors and in nature, it is a fantastic book because it is talking about the physical and mental benefits of doing that. And because she is an occupational therapist, she actually has like a scientific background as to like why these are such great things to do with your kids and what she has seen in the field working with kids in terms of the benefits of nature and exploring it on their own terms. The other group I think is great for this book is if you have a child that has any kinds of exceptionalities. So because she's an occupational therapist, she does deal with a lot of kids, predominantly kids, who have various diagnoses, whether it's autism, ADHD, they have physical handicaps of some kind, so many different types of children that she deals with that have different exceptionalities. And one of the things that she talks about is how going out into nature benefits them in a variety of different ways and how she has seen it work anecdotally with a variety of different children. So while it's not a homeschool book and it's not about homeschooling, if you have a child that has different exceptionalities and you're trying to figure out something that might be beneficial to them, she is basically, the thesis of the book is suggesting that having children spend more time outdoors and what you can do with them outdoors is a great idea for any child, but especially those who have different physical, mental, or even emotional difficulties in life. So I highly recommend that book for those reasons. Another book, I haven't read this one yet. I haven't started it. Just got it from the used bookstore. But this was on my list of books to read, was Peter Gray, Free to Learn. This is predominantly an unschooling book from what based on the title, I'm gonna go, it's an unschooling book, and it shows up on pretty much every unschooling list. Why unleashing the instinct of play will make your children happier, self-reliant, and better students for life. And so this book is, from what I gathered in my early reading, it's all about the benefits of play. I know we live in a society that's all about competition and trying to get our kids to be the best that they can be. And for a lot of people that ends up means a lot of worksheets and drills and repetition and lots of schoolwork. And kind of the thesis of this book is that play needs to be a priority in our households, especially as homeschoolers. We have the ability to control play in the sense that we can give our kids that time to play, whereas in school they don't get a lot of time to play. And so if you are interested in learning more about play and the importance of play, this would be the book for you. Like I said, I just picked it up. I can't give you a full review on it just yet, but I'm very excited to read this book. And then I have 2 books that are on my wish list for Christmas. Hint, hint. I've got one book that is come highly recommended to me, The Call of the Wild and Free by Ainsley Armand. I'm super hoping that I can find this book soon, or maybe get it for Christmas. And so that I've heard nothing but great reviews about the book. I just haven't been able to find it at a kind of reasonable price locally. But I am on the lookout and I can't wait to actually find it. Unfortunately, I haven't even been able to find it in my library, which is kind of been a bummer, but hoping it shows up soon. So that is on my list, The Call of the Wild and Free. Again, I have, from what I've been told, it is a little bit of a lean towards child-led interests and unschooling. But I think a lot of homeschoolers, we need to embrace the fact that while we like some of us like our structure and our curriculum, I think some of us also, we need to kind of pull some ideas out of unschooling as well. I'm a big fan of reading books that are outside of your specific approach. Because I really feel that, we need to beg, borrow, and steal. And I think some different approaches have some great ideas and great foundations and great, concepts that we can borrow from. I'm a big into like borrowing the child-led interests and following those from unschooling. I love, ideas from Charlotte Mason. And I think that reading books from authors who are in different approaches is important. So like I said, I am excited. I do want to read The Call of the Wild and Free by Ainsley Armand. I also want to read, this is another book that I've heard great things about, although it is religious. So if that's not your thing, you might want to pass. I've heard really good things about Homeschool Bravely by Jamie Erickson. And so that's another book that is on my wish list. Those are my top books. I hope that you find something that has really sparked an interest for you. I hope that you find something that is going to help you get to the next step of your homeschooling. That time of year, maybe you want to add one of these books to your Christmas wish list, which would be a great thing. We are going to put links for all the books below. I hope this was informational for you and helpful. If you like our videos and you want to see more of them, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to get notifications. And you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram, where we post kind of daily tips and tricks and what we're doing in our lives. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys later.